Hannah, Archivist with Deadwood History, and as part of October, which is American Archives Month, I am showing you some of the collections we have and inviting you to learn more about it so that you can come and do some research. And this week, we are looking at our most used collection. This is the collection we get the most requests for, and that's the Homestake Employee Collection. And Homestake obviously hired and employed thousands of people when it was open, and we have a lot of those records. We don't necessarily have all of them, but the first thing that we'll do when you call and give us a name, person that's working there, is we're going to look at our employee cards, which are these. And there's two different types, and they run from about 1927 through 1986-87. And we have cards, and they'll give you a little bit of information, a little employee review, so you'll be able to find out if your granddad did a good job or not. But they'll also give you a few things that you might not have thought about, which are, we know that this man was 5'9" with dark hair and blue eyes, so you get a little bit of information there that you might not think about. Would be on your employee card. We don't do that anymore these days. You might also notice as we're going through that we have paper over some things, and that's because there is personal information in these collections, and that's why we can't just let you come in and go through all the cards. We have to look through them first and pull them. So that's unfortunately one of the downsides of our great collection, is you can't just come through and flip through it. So like I said, we have a few hundred of these cards. Thousands of people are employed by Homestake. If you're lucky enough to have a card of your relative, we'll be able to move on to the hiring registers and find the record there. If you don't have a card for your relative, they're not in there, which isn't unlikely, we can still look through the hiring register. You can kind of see hiring registers are pretty big. We have a lot of them. They run from around 1927 to about 1982. We do have some later ones for summer student employees. And we're working on an index. We've got some great volunteers who know how important this is to you, and they're working on getting everything in there. But if you can give us as much information as possible on your relative when you think they were hired, that's super helpful when we go to kind of look through these gigantic books to see if we can find it. And some of the information on the hiring register, you're not going to get on the employee card. You're going to have their nationality. By this point, they were all American, but the early registers, you're going to find Canadians, Frenchmen, as they put it, and Swedes. So a lot of different nationalities. You'll also find where they worked, so you got the department, and then if they were surface or in the mine. And we'll find out that they have their religion and politics or political party on there, but unfortunately we don't know what the numbers stand for. So if you have a relative and you know what religion they were, maybe you can tell us and that'll help us figure it out, because we just don't have the code, unfortunately. But that was all important at that point when they were doing these hiring registers. So, like I said, 1922 is our earliest records for hiring, cards, things like that. What if you had someone who probably worked earlier than that? We might be able to find them in our Social Security quits books. And just by the name, obviously, you know you can't just flip through these because we got Social Security numbers. But if you have an idea of when they might have retired or died on the job, unfortunately, passed away or quit, they will be in here. And you can kind of see, not quite as big as our hiring registers, but still pretty large, and these go through the early 90s. So we do have a few that are more recent. And this one down here is from the 1940s. It's gonna give the name, it's gonna give their last shift and what department they worked in, but also it's interesting, they wrote down why they left. And in the 1940s, shipyards, farms, and defense were the most popular reasons for these men to leave. And I said men, but a lot of women also worked for Homestake, and that's one thing. Don't forget that there were women. If you had a relative in lead, she may have worked for Homestake. And that brings us to our pension cards. I actually pulled Miss Blanche Coleman's pension card because I know we can show that. She has passed away, so that information is now available to the public. You can see that unfortunately her pension went from around 100 some odd to 30 some odd, but we do have pension cards. So not for everyone, it's a very small amount, only a couple hundred, but we might have your relative in there. So it's entirely possible. We've gone through all this and we couldn't find them. Is there somewhere else they might be? They might be in the Homestake Veterans collection. We'd always like to look there. And we also have a lot of photos. So you are welcome to come and look through the photos and you might be able to find your relative there. We have photos from offices. This is the drafting department. This is actually a guardsman. And of course we do have photos from the miners themselves. And down here we have something. All of this stuff on that side you can't look at yourself, unfortunately, but we do have some things you're welcome to come flip through. We do have charts of where people worked, and you might be able to, you might not find your relative, but you might know who their boss was, so you'll be able to at least find that in those charts. We also have lists from about the 1930s through the 1960s for the mechanical department, and some from the electrical department of people that worked in Homestake. So that's just kind of an idea of the things when you're looking for a relative, what we're looking at, why it might take longer than you think it would because we just can't find them right away, but we're working on it. We are working on those indexes for you, and we'll just hopefully find something. And if we can't find it in Homestake, we always keep the name and search for it every few months, and we might have something eventually down the line. So hopefully I will be seeing you all next Wednesday at our regular time. We've had a few technical issues with the internet, and we'll be talking about W.E. Adams, kind of the forefather of presenting history to everyone in Deadwood. And you can always contact me if you're interested in finding a relative or something else at 605-722-4800, or you can email me at hannah@deadwoodhistory.com.